GM, and welcome to the Boonified Experience podcast. I'm your host, Kyle, but really, most people just call me Boona. Y'all, this is not a new episode for a guest, but this is a year-end wrap-up for 2021 for season 2 of the podcast, and y'all, I have absolutely no words. This has been one of the craziest years of growth for me, as an individual. And I've gotten to meet so many cool people on this show, and it's really hard to put into words how grateful I am, for number one, for y'all's support, but number two, to like just find my place in Web3 and really find a community that I can't stop thinking about, that I want to be in all the time, sometimes to my own detriment. But you know, I really have no words. This is a recap episode where we go over all of my favorite highlights from all of the guests in Web3. Y'all, this has been an absolutely brilliant year. Season 3, I have so much planned. I already have about 5 episodes in the books, 3 of them recorded. It is going to be an absolute banger. So for those of y'all who follow my Twitter, you know who those are. And just to give you some early alpha, is the first episode for season 3 was probably one of the most emotional episodes that I've ever done, and gives a very, very very vulnerable look at a lot of my life and a lot of the artist's life that I connected with. And it was just one of my favorite episodes to record. So I selfishly held that on till season 3. Episode 1, because I really want this to make an impact and start out with a bang. And so, y'all, thank you so much again for your support. If you have not done so already, please go ahead and like and subscribe to this video, or to the audio feed, whichever one you're listening on. It really helps get this podcast in front of more people who need to hear it, and it really supports the show and myself as well. Lastly, I have been, if you follow me on Twitter, which is at BoonaETH, I have been co-hosting a Twitter Spaces daily, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time with Ashney. This is her show called Dear Ashney, and this has been an absolute banger of a success. We've been competing with some of the largest Twitter Spaces shows in the morning. So if you're wanting to get a more in-depth look, ask panelists some questions that we have on. We have a lot of great people coming up asking really thoughtful questions. And overall, just really trying to do our part in supporting the community and making sure that people can get access to what we all have here as well, and uplift other people in the process. So I will also be hosting one of my own shows in 2022, TBD on the details of that, the time and the frequency. But for right now, I will be, and I'll still always be co-hosting that with Ashley. So if you are looking to participate a little bit more and you're on the sidelines and want to get a little bit more involved, please let me know. Please follow me on Twitter. That is where I am the most active. Again, so just thank y'all so much. I hope you enjoy this episode. These were some of my, whether they're funny, they're my favorite, they're the most insightful, just some great moments that I handpicked out last night for y'all to enjoy. Y'all have a happy new year, and we'll see you in 2022. Peace.
Because in that tweet, I also added that people will either love it or hate it.
Yep.
And that's exactly what happened. Like, I got a lot of love, but I got a lot of hate too.
You did.
Not gonna. Oh yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah.
Hey, when I can't tell the story, but it was pretty insane. But I was expecting it, because the goal with this was to disrupt what we know as, the traditional licensing.
Mm-hmm.
And
now
you're on the website.
Let's go into that. Yeah.
So basically, FearWhy is, as I'm reading, it's the world's first image to have its rights released after the 1/1 NFTs purchased. And the idea with that is that I had a specific photo that I posted back in 2017, and that became absolutely viral. And you know what? This photo is not blue, and that really pisses me off.
I'm like, is this a cat piece? Because it's not fucking blue.
Right? I was like, how come the only not blue photo of my entire portfolio becomes viral?
But I think that speaks to the importance of this piece as well. Like, is it so different from the rest of your work? Like that, that we're all used to, that like it almost has to stand out. It almost has to, like, it's broken apart to where no one can get it confused. No one has any doubts or any questions.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just made that
agree with
connection. And I think that it's not supposed to be blue. Like, we like the green here. We like the green
Yeah.
only for this one, but we normally like the blue.
Well, okay, the road is kind of blue green, kind of.
But let's
it's
not kid
moody.
ourselves. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's not kid ourselves here. You got mountains. That's
Yeah.
that. We got mountains.
There's mountains.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. That's it.
Yep,
It's
yep.
good enough. Good enough.
Yeah.
So basically, I posted that photo back in 2017, and it became viral like almost instantly. Like, all the big hubs started to reshare it, and at first I was really happy. I was like, wow, like, it's kind of the first time that I'm receiving so much attention for my work, and for me that was like a super sort of like simple and easy photo. I literally just got out of my car, took the photo, came back. It was literally the easiest photo I've ever taken. So I did like the photo, but I was not expecting anything from it more than any of the rest of my work. And then, so, it started to be used by like really big hubs, like on Instagram, on Facebook. And then it started to be reshared, but mostly without credits. I even saw the photo a few times on big travel pages with 100,000 of likes,
Wow.
with millions of views, no credits, nothing
Wow.
back to me. And that lasted for 4 years. And along the way, I decided to try 2 different services, which help photographer recover some of
The royalties
the
or some of the,
infringements.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, with some lawyers like really specialize in that. And none of these 2 services were able to recover any money from the cases.
Wow.
Zero. I never received a single dollar for that.
Wow. And how much did that cost you to like hire these like people to do that?
So what's cool with both of these services is that, well, the first that I used, it was like free for the first few months.
Okay.
And then you need to start paying. But usually when you pay, it's just like a percentage of the
whatever they get
recovered
back.
case.
Okay, gotcha.
So if
okay.
you don't, if they don't win the case, you don't have to pay anything.
That's good at least.
So
Okay.
yeah, exactly. And then I had, I think, only 1 or 2 other of my images that I was able to recover some money out of my entire portfolio, uploading 30 images on both of these websites.
Wow.
2 cases out of hundreds and hundreds of cases across my entire portfolio. So it's like, well, yes, you do have these services, but it's not guaranteed that you're going to get anything out of it.
Right.
And it might take years,
Yeah.
So I came to a point where I really wanted to drop that photo, but in a way that would be meaningful and in a way that would tell a story. And I remember I was drinking some wine, smoking some pot one night with my friend Matt, who did my Genesis video before, and we were just sort of pitching crazy ideas. And we came to this idea, and at first I was like, well, why would I give away my rights to like the people who stole it,
Right.
And it just felt so weird at first. But then the more you thought about it, the more it made sense. And the more you thought about, what are NFTs? For me, the more an image is shared across the world, the more the value of the one NFT goes up.
Exactly.
And so that was sort of like the way that I was personally understanding NFTs. And that was maybe 3 to 4 months ago when we started to discuss the idea.
Yep.
And also I was like, wow, that would be a crazy statement to be like, you know what, you've been trying to steal my photos for years and I have never been able to win. Then you can't steal what you're being given. So this is my way to reclaim sort of like my rights on this photo by releasing it and making it free to everyone. So that was sort of like my way to regain control by letting go of control. So lots of like different statements in this project. And I was really lucky because I was able to basically present the project to someone who was already interested in purchasing my work. And that person was really loved anything that is like disruptive and innovative. And he just really connected with it, with this idea. And that's G Money. And I pitched him the idea. We had a call right after and he was on board. And he just saw something into the project without even showing any form of marketing, promo video, whatever.
Right.
just with the idea, he was on board. And I'm like so thankful for him that he was, interested in the project. And I basically included him in the development of the idea, like keeping him posted about the website and everything. And he was just amazing.
Yeah.
So he also agreed in doing an auction instead of just a private sale, because he knows that, the more this project would make noise and attract eyes, the more lasting the effect would be after.
Right.
So
right.
He agreed.
What did it for me was the actual usefulness and utility of Ethereum, of the smart contract, and how I finally found a way where it impacted me and the area that I was, I guess, pursuing, in content creation in general. It all just like hit me. I fell down a rabbit hole. Like I barely slept for like 2 weeks. I'm just like, this is so cool. Like, how is no one else not seeing this? Like, I felt like I was the only one.
Yeah. Like the technology is really cool. And yeah. I think when I first discovered it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to change the whole financial system. And I was pretty confident that was going to happen. And and then I go a little deeper. I get on these platforms and I start using them. And the volume is crazy. Like the volume, the engagement, people are like, really, this is before, people got interested in Robinhood and the stock market. This is early days. And it's like a new cohort of investors were like, they were obsessed with this stuff, and I was there at the first Ethereum ICO. That's where I got really into the DAO and this concept that on a smart contract, you could have a decentralized ownership structure and it be backed by the largest computing network in the world, or one of, and it's just like, yikes, that's crazy. But then NFTs come along, and this is back to what Curtis and I talked about when he took it to the Olympics. It was like, he is passionate about crypto, and he agrees that this is going to reshape the financial system, reshape opportunity for not just Americans, Canadians, Europeans, everyone in the world. Well, anyone with a cell phone and internet connection has the exact same opportunity as you have. We've never seen that before. But Curtis, he's like, how do I take this to the game, Josh? Like, how do I do I have Curtis coin? Like, what can I do? I'm like, you know what? Change your profile picture to a CryptoPunk. Like the most striking visual thing to hook someone in and tell them about crypto is through NFTs or CryptoPunks or any one of these projects, Bored Ape Yacht Club, Cool Cats.
I love it.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask a little bit more about, your relationship with Curtis. Like, how did, like, are you like his advisor? Like, how did you come to meet him? Like, what is your role, and like, what do you do with him?
Yeah, we're just friends. We got set up through a mutual connection. And he's like, hey, you got to go talk to Josh, figure out something to do. And this is like 2 days before he left for Tokyo. And so I came up with this idea, like, hey, use this CryptoPunk thing, because I started seeing, everyone was changing their avatars to a CryptoPunk. I was like, you change yours. No need to, like, just use it. Like, just use it. I have 5 of these things. Just use one of them. And so we did that, and that's how we got connected. So it was really organic. And then once the tweet kind of went viral, the first tweet, I was like, man, any other athletes want to do this? And I put a call out on Twitter to all CryptoPunk owners saying, hey, Team USA, there's other athletes that want to use CryptoPunks. And I got like 100 responses of like people saying, use this. And so what we're realizing is we're seeing that I can transfer social capital, if you will, social equity, social likeness, let's say, to someone else. And the thing with the Olympics is there's a rule 40 where you can't, take a brand to the Olympics. You can't have Coca-Cola on your profile unless you're explicitly like, sponsored there. Coca-Cola actually probably sponsored the Olympics, so it's a bad example, but you can't take 100 Thieves or any other brand to the Olympics that way. But CryptoPunks are kind of like a brand, but not a brand. They're globally recognized at this point. There's 10,000 of them. So it's almost like there's Coca-Cola's logo, but there's 10,000 versions of Coca-Cola's logo. Each of them are unique and a bit different. And the engagement that comes along with it is incredible. And that's kind of what we tapped into for Curtis, because look, he's in a sport, but he's not a professional NBA player. So for him, his prospects after the Olympics are, he's really got to start at square one. He can't,
Yep.
he's got to build his brand while he's there. And this was a way of doing that.
Yeah. You see, as far as like Axie in like the next 10 years, like where would you want to see that? And I know in crypto, that's basically like 100 years. So
definitely. I think the eventual implications of this is that if you can create deep social economic relationships with anyone anywhere in the world, you start to see yourself as part of this community, right? This community also has culture and entertainment built into it. You start to have all the building blocks of a real nation, right? So we often call it Axie a digital nation. Governments are now starting to reach out to us, and even politicians are starting to get interested. So it's almost right, like we have our own. We're kind of almost. I think in the future we have this potential where we may be signing treaties with governments. We may be acquiring land in the physical world. Governments may be even begging us to buy land in the physical world from them as they go bankrupt from sovereign debt crises, which can be brewing. So I think that this is something that can become far more than a game. This is a community that can become quite powerful in the real world.
I'm extremely bullish on what pseudo-anonymity is going to do from an economic activity perspective. And there's so many aspects of pseudo-anonymity or just straight up anonymity that give power back to individuals where the power was taken from the individuals in the first place, in my view. And so when you have an anime character as your profile picture online, there may be a separate type of discrimination that happens on a pseudonymous level, but there's far less. There's a different. It's a very different animal, and I think pseudo-anonymity helps solve many of the, specifically when it comes to economic discrimination that happens to people on the basis of race, gender, sexual orientation, age, appearance. A lot of that stuff gets solved from an economic opportunity perspective in a pseudo-anonymity, in a pseudo-anonymous culture, and that's where I think crypto is headed. At least a big part of it is, and I think it's incredibly important to protect that. I think it's incredibly important to protect people that want to remain anonymous. And like I've written checks to anonymous teams. I wrote a check to an anonymous team this week. I funded an anonymous team this week, and so like. It's going to take a long time for people to get comfortable with that. It's going to take it's going to take a long time. But people are starting to warm up to it. It's starting to become normal. Some of my best friends are anonymous or pseudo anonymous on the internet, and it's part of it's just a cultural thing. Like there are certain generations that are living right now that will just never be okay with that for the most part. And it may take several generations for it to be totally comfortable.
Yeah.
But it's one of the first people who reached out to me was John Numph, and he messaged me and was like, "Yo, I love your work. It's so good. Like, let's get you in Clubhouse." And I was like, "No, I don't think so. I'm not doing Clubhouse."
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And then like 2 days later, I was on Clubhouse like every single day for the next 3 months.
Yep.
It was like crazy. And then we had a work trip for Leave the Map. We went down south for a client and like did a whole like 2-week van trip. And it was so tough during that time because it was like right when NFTs were kind of just like blowing up. Clubhouse was like taking off, and I had like met this group of people. We were talking on Telegram all the time, and then hopping into Discord. I'm like, I can't keep track of this. So I'm trying to like sit in the van with James and carry on a conversation with my husband while also like managing all these apps and figuring out what the fuck is going on in the internet right now. And then trying to do this work with him and do the photography that we are hired to do, and also enjoy, like, we're very much like when we get to a campsite, we shut things off, we enjoy each other, we have a beer together, we walk around. And I couldn't do it. And he was like, "What is going on? Like, this sucks. Like, I feel like I can't hang out with you because you're like this with your phone." I'm like literally like
competing with the phone.
Yeah, and I'm not like that with him ever.
Yep.
You know, like we're very much like phones away at dinner.
Yep.
Like we spend our evenings together, and so it was like kind of a weird time. And he one night he was out working on the campfire and like hanging out, and I was sitting in the van, and I'm like, I'm listening to this Clubhouse room right now, like. Check back later. And it was like 4 hours later. He's like, are you still in there? And I'm like, yeah, I guess I should probably get out now. And then, so I got off, and then I saw the next day that it had gone for 12 hours.
Holy shit.
And I was like, okay.
A lot of this happening at this scale and just how close like this world's actually becoming. You know what I mean?
It's one of the few places where I think technology is meeting like an emphasis on community, which is something that I think doesn't happen too much anymore. And like I said, like I want to invest my time into things that I think not only provide me value, but like I can give back equally. And I think that you don't see like a lot of places where people can become successful just purely by being like a great community leader and being like seen as like a person who spends a lot of time helping others. And I think this space has like, and it's honestly a testament to some of like the bigger collectors. I think that they're very in tune. Like, of course, there's some that are probably just geniuses at the finances and they know like what's going to off and what's going to make money. But I think, I think one like key realization I've had is like overall, a lot of them have put an emphasis on supporting people who are here for the long haul, who are building things and who are showing up like daily and providing value to the community. Those are the people who I see them investing in. And so I think that that's like a big sign for me that I'm in the right place. And it's like a community that is really like putting a focus on bringing the like the cream rises to the top, right? Like find the people who are dedicating the time to it, that are big benefits to building this thing and like building it the right way, and make sure that they have like a platform and like find success somehow.
Yeah, dude. And I've never seen the support to the magnitude that I have here. It's not to say
think about the ratio between like these brands, because I think of all these things as brands and companies and stuff and IP companies. I listed these out of how many thousands, tens of thousands. Out there, right? And you know, some people may not like them. That's fine. You can like what you like. I like these things. That's the beauty of it all. And you can vote with your ETH on what you like, and be a part of engaged in that. So, I really like what they've been doing. But it shows how little companies are going into this. Like, as far as I know, Artifact is like the only Metaverse fashion company. That's like native. It's like they're so sick, and you know. That's one thing that we have is like this notion of it's really us versus legacy, right? Like we love Web3 companies, and I think Farouk had a good tweet about this the other day. Like you're more like even like Ghost and Cool Cats collab all the time, like projects collab all the time, and you're like less likely to see that in like a Web2 world where like Nike and Puma collabing, right? You're like, that's not ever gonna happen.
No, it's not. And
but you know who gets hurt by that, bro, is the consumer.
Competitive nature.
Yeah, that's the most important one. Yeah,
I think people miss that. Having competitive nature is not always a negative thing. I think there are many good qualities to have that. I mean, you get yourself out of a hole, or you're going through a tough time, or you're trying to do as well as you can do in your own life, and whether that's hobby or career. I think having some competitive nature is a very healthy trait to have, as long as it doesn't transfer to a negative emotion. But no, I mean, I've looked at hundreds of companies at this point, and they don't all just make games. I've looked at one that's actually building games that are meant to be prescription medicine. I've looked at companies that are doing meditative VR that have gamification. I've looked at data and CRM company. I've looked at every field that has employed gaming in some fashion. And, you know, they're early. Some of them are not early. Some of them have the substantial capital to make it. Others are experimenting. And that's one thing I like about Web3 is like people are not afraid to do some really crazy things that might not have any ability to succeed. But the fact is that they want to do it anyway, because they know that even if they don't succeed in this, the fact is 10 years from now, we will know what those models are, and everyone will get, you know, the world is getting smaller and smaller. More people, but everyone can connect with each other a lot quicker. And people remember, if you're the guy that tried that thing that didn't work, but it was cool as hell, and you know exactly how everything works, like you're going to raise money for a company, or you're going to work at a big company, or you're going to invest in companies. I think I think the worst thing you could do is not experiment in the world we're living right now.
I have a price for my life's work. I want to work with others to make, I've had a taste of success the way I wanted to taste it in reaching the my dream of becoming an animator for television. I would love for another artist, younger than me, another even older than me, just to feel that, like, dude, how cool to be part of something really big. I am very well aware that my name rolling in those credits. Check this out. I did draw for both of those shows back to back, Simpsons and Family Guy, with no formal training whatsoever. And I and Swampy are the only two that I can think of right now that have our AKAs in the credit when it's not Halloween. My name says Miguel Gorilla Lopez on my credit name, and it's not Halloween. It's my credit, and on Family Guy, and I believe on Barnyard as well, back at the Barnyard. So I have AKAs that were given, so everyone knows me as Gorilla in this. A lot of people didn't even know my real name. They were like, "Hey, Gorilla." I didn't know my real name was Miguel, and it was kind of cool. It's like a little bit of a it's a secret kind of wings, but there was nothing secret about a 500-pounder. I couldn't hide that easy, but it's kind of a trip though how I ended up drawing those shows, and I ended up that way, and I have the weird way of getting in and then having the credits that I have, and stuff. I get it. It's kind of cool and weird, and like I told you before, it was just my life, so it doesn't seem odd. But when you start saying it or start telling the story and you say, "Hey, I guess that is kind of weird. That is unorthodox. That is kind of strange," but it is kind of, it makes me feel kind of now. I'm telling you right now, you make me feel pretty strong right now. I feel kind of I feel like I feel a little more empowered. Like I should be talking to more artists. I want to help them. I want to work with them.
The thing is, I see a lot of artists doing collections and not selling out, and that can be really damaging to your brand. So they see everyone else selling out, and they do a collection. And even really good photographers have dropped collections, and they are still sitting there with like 10 out of 50 sold.
Right.
So now you are devaluing photography a little more by showing new collectors like photography is not selling out in these collections, so they might think, oh, it must not be a desirable art medium.
Yeah.
So that's the other downside. So you get a saturation, a lowering of prices for one-of-ones, and you get some potential photography reputation damage from ones that are unsold. And I don't know. I think it's going to backfire in the next couple months because people are dropping them at alarming rates. It's ridiculous. Really? And the other thing is collectors are going to kind of end up shooting themselves in the foot, I think. Or sorry, creators. I don't want to say, I don't know. Some people are doing them for cash grabby reasons. And then others actually have really good collections.
Yeah.
But I see collections, like people are getting, it's hard not to get desperate and you want a sale. So I see some collections coming out being like, these are my 50 best pieces in my entire gallery. I'm selling them all at once for like 0.25 Ethereum each. It's like, what are you going to do when that sells? Like, they sell out usually. Sometimes they don't, though. So there's all your best pieces sold out for 10, 15 ETH. Like, that's a big sale.
Yeah.
But now you're out of your best pieces. And so the next collection they're going to do, because everyone wants that next dopamine hit. I mean, this space is like a drug. It really is.
Yeah.
So they want the next dopamine hit, and I've seen it happen already. So then they release another collection. But the quality's less. It's like their B-roll shots. But then they want another one, and then it's their C-roll shots. And the quality goes down because they started with their best stuff.
Gotcha.
And they're shooting themselves in the foot because they're running out of photos to post. And they keep dropping collections way too soon from the last one selling out. So then their secondary sales are dropping out. It's like, why would you spy on secondary if they're going to drop another collection in another week?
Right.
Anyways, I could go on.
This is not like we are making blockchain games or we must make games with NFTs in it. It's like we are making open economy games, and the blockchain is enabling us to do so.
That's sick, man. I mean, and that's a cool narrative because like what you'll see is like a lot of people coming into the space where it's like just because now it's enabled, like they see the opportunity. And there's nothing wrong with that, But for someone who I find it fascinating your story because like you this is what you've always wanted. and this is what you've always been attempting to build and making chunks of progress towards. But then the solution came to the forefront.
And it's not just we always wanted it. The players have always wanted this too.
Yeah.
Players have always figured out a way to transact on gray markets, right? There's always been gold farming on forums, power leveling on forums, trading items on forums, or in these more opaque ways that game developers have gone to just like, they say, I'm going to ban all of this activity. But from our perspective, like if a lot of players want to do something and they actually want open economies, why are game developers trying so hard to ban this like very natural interaction between players? Because people transacting between each other is extremely social. As game devs, like you want these extremely social experiences because we all know that the more social your game is, the more people, find that community and the longer they stick around your game. So instead of trying to prevent it, we were just like, well, what if we just make it a core part of the game? What if we enable it? And that's what that's the reason that we're building on chain.
A lot more engagement, involvement, because I think it's just like in the esports world, it's always been hard for non-endemics to come into esports and just try to capitalize on this growth and this user base, because they'll be seen as someone that's kind of taking advantage of the space. It's really the same thing in crypto and NFTs in a lot of ways. And yes, there are a lot more people that are taking advantage of it, but you have to come in organically, and you have to come in a way that you're showing kind of a shared interest. And I think like good ways to do that, especially if you're a game publisher, is buy some of the projects, like buy CryptoPunk, buy a Bored Ape, buy land and I know some of them have, but and start to create some fun little kind of gigs and projects and get involved in some conversations. I think Adidas did a good job with their Bored Ape kind of thing, but Adidas isn't doing just this massive campaign. Like they're starting to kind of slowly dip their toes into it more and more, and I think that's the right way to do it. And I think a lot of game publishers have come out and said like they see the opportunity, but they're still keeping a distance, and I think that's a wrong approach. I think it's fine to not jump in head first, but I think a lot of these game publishers they need to get their feet wet, and they need to start kind of understanding and doing some fun little initiatives here and there. And it doesn't have to be. I mean, it could just be small things with their teams and their events. Maybe they just give away some fun little NFT. I don't know what all the things are, but don't do a huge initiative and try to make a bunch of money. Like make it part of your brand, or part of your brand, and then once you start to get to a point where, all right, now we've kind of built this understanding, we've educated our community on what this is, we've kind of introduced some cool little initiatives, and now we can do something really big and massive and launch, and that's the right way for these game publishers to approach it, in my opinion, for sure.
I'm buying traditional art, well, contemporary art now, real life art, and art dealer tells me this is how much I just sold this to this person for, and I believe him. But you're right, it's not like I can look on the blockchain and confirm some of these things.
Right, and the reason why I touch on that is because I think we've Web 2.0 introduced this culture, like Web 2.0, like obviously meaning social media, and e-commerce and digital platforms and interacting with each other online. I think it introduced this really, we've gotten spoiled with being able to literally just take, artwork and put it on our computer. And we've also been really spoiled in the sense that we are only showing our best selves on Web 2.0. We're only showing the W's, we're only showing the victories. And
Web3, we've got our wallet, or right now our wallet is our identity, right? And there's a whole social layer to that. And people do see everything that's done on these wallets. Granted, a person could have their own other wallet they don't disclose and things like that. That's not actually how I operate. My stuff's pretty damn public.
It's in your username.
Yeah, Jimmy.e one. And then I have my vault, which is also still tied to that domain. It's the vault.jimmy.eth. So it's my stuff is known. And it's really interesting because all that stuff is there, and really I think none of the tools have really been developed yet to really do this deep analysis of all this. So it's going to get really interesting when people go back and find things in people's wallets and, you know, figure out how it all went down and the connections between people. Like that social graph itself is going to be extremely interesting. So I'm excited about it all. I mean, look, I'm actually a big advocate for, you know, data privacy and user privacy. I think zero knowledge proofs, we won't get into that, but that's a way to protect user data and privacy in a way that hasn't been possible up to this point. Also can be applied to NFTs. But I also believe that there's something really powerful about these online public profiles and the way that it's very transactional and transparent in nature. It allows us to do things without central authorities, like banks and things like that. You could get a loan based on your wallet and things like that without having to go through traditional approval methods. There's a lot of stuff you can do here. And like you said, it's not just gaming, it's not just art. These are like proof of ownership. Right. We could be talking about the deed to a home. We could be talking about keys to your car. It can be your identity itself. There's a lot of very important use cases to be played out for NFTs.
And I mean,
on crypto Twitter, I would just recommend being your authentic self, and like, that's all I've ever done. I don't know how to do anything else, right? Like, I don't really have a great filter. I don't really have a great way of biting my tongue. I just say what I think, and if I fuck up and say something that I shouldn't have said, like, I'll apologize if it's something I shouldn't have said, or if it's something that I really believe in, I'll back up what I'm saying and be like, no, like, this is why I think this, here's why. And, like, the community's been nothing but good to me, just, like, from me being honest with them. I think, like, that's what people want, right? Like, we know that we're not, like, on LinkedIn, and we're not in an office trying to, like, make sure that everything we say is completely, like, neutered and, you know, put through the scope of being professional. But it's like, no, like, we shoot the shit, we vibe, we tell it how it is, and that's what people, I think, love about us.